Something like that. Hey, I wanted to tell you about diminished triads, diminished triad arpeggios in particular. They are the most neglected of all the triad arpeggios, but I think they sound really neat and they're super useful. So check it out. Here's my favorite fingerings for 3 shapes. One with the root in the bass. I'm skipping the B string. It's cool to be able to target the melody instead of just starting from the lower note. So you can target the minor third if you start from the top. The next shape, the first inversion, you can think about it starting from the minor third if it's in the bass, or you can start from the flat 5 if it's the melody. And then finally, the second inversion. This one's a little trickier because it involves a slide. So it starts with a flat 5 in the bass, and I like to do this: go the second finger and then slide to the third finger. It's called a compound shift, I think is what that's called, where you slide and change fingers, and it targets the root in the melody. Now, in each one of those, you can use a chord shape to help you find where to play it. You know, if you're not just thinking of the target notes from the top and the bottom, like within it, there's a chord shape. And I always tell my students it's good to have the chord shapes integrated in your mind with a scale or an arpeggio. That way it's like you're not like stuck in lead mode versus rhythm mode. You can kind of think of both at the same time. So in this, like maybe the lower one, you got a bunch of cool shapes that are embedded in there. Okay, and then the next one, the first inversion, you've got a couple of them. That one, which is the root position, closed, and then you've also got this one that has the root in the melody. It looks like a triangle. So I'm zooming in on this one. You can kind of see I've got the target shapes kind of outlined here. By the way, this is a couple of pages from my new book, Creative Guitar Fundamentals. And if you want this handout, it's just one page of 213 pages. I mean, there's a lot of fundamentals. Okay. Anyway, so I like this shape, the triangle, isosceles triangle. It's got the root and the melody. So does that make sense? You're targeting a chord, not just single notes. Okay. And then this third one, it's got this first inversion kind of embedded in it. It looks like this. This one I kind of know from this lick. So it's like a F diminished. I'm kind of getting off topic a little bit. So this triad pair, F diminished and E flat. Okay, I was just doing this thing from E flat to F diminished. So that's the target with this shape. To really have access to these shapes in your improvisation, you have to just get the reps in. You have to play it a whole bunch of times to be able to play it without thinking about it. You just have to know where to start it. That's maybe the only thinking you have to do. Like, okay, how do I get to the right shape in time? It's a couple different ways, target the bass or target the melody or target a shape. Okay. All right, let's move on. And I want to show you how useful these things are. I got to flip forward a bunch of pages, so give me a second. Flippity. Okay, flip. Okay, here we go. So revisiting the usefulness of diminished triads. So classical music uses diminished triads quite a bit, yet they seem to be neglected in jazz styles. Because of this, their use in jazz almost seems like novel vocabulary. And when I say jazz, I mean like improv-based music, the big tent of jazz. Okay, here's a neat 2-5-1 idea, minor 2-5-1 idea that uses only diminished triad arpeggios. So the over this 2-5-1 in A minor. This is a common kind of vibe, minor 2-5-1 to finish on a instead of finishing on a minor 7, you finish on a minor 6. So you have this really sassy note that's really present in classic jazz vocabulary, where you target the natural 6. So I'm turning on my looper so you can hear this in context. So can you hear that? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat the 2 and the 5 as coming from harmonic minor. There's other things you can do there, but just for the sake of this demonstration. So this is going to be a 2 of harmonic minor, and this is going to be a 5 of harmonic minor. Now, in harmonic minor, there's 4 different diminished triads that exist. 2 are spelled correctly, and 2 are not spelled correctly. And I like to think of modes. So the 7th mode of harmonic minor, okay, that's G sharp diminished. Those exist in that key. Also, B diminished triad exists. I should also mention, if you put all these 4 diminished triad sounds in a blender, and you could totally just play a diminished 7th arpeggio over the whole thing, But I think that separating the individual sounds out, it's a bit cooler, I think. It's a bit more pointed. You might need to play around with it to like maybe fully appreciate the sound of diminished triads. Also, you might not want to do it because it's just a new thing to learn. And when you're learning something, it doesn't feel good to play it. It feels good to play something when it's already a habit because it comes from a different part of your brain. By the way, did you know that? Did you know that like when you're learning something, you have to use your cerebral cortex, and it's like there's no pleasure at all. But when you use something out of habit, it uses a different part of your brain that's the more inner part, the basal ganglia, and it's really close to a part that of your brain that generates dopamine. So it actually feels good to play stuff that you really know. It's probably why we like to practice stuff that we're already good at. But let's add to it, okay? So anyway, that was the 2. There's also the 4, so D diminished. Now that mode, if you're thinking of modes, it's that mode is called Dorian sharp 4. And if you played it as a triad spelled correctly, it's just a minor triad. But since the sharp 4 exists in that mode, you can play the sharp 4 in lieu of the 5, and then you get something that sounds like the equivalent, the enharmonic equivalent of a diminished triad. You can do both if you want. D minor and D diminished. How about something like this? Sorry. And then there's also the 6th mode, which is even more enharmonically messed up because it happens to be a major triad if you just do 1, 3, 5. But it's that mode is called Lydian sharp 2. So you can voice the sharp 2 in lieu of the 3 and the sharp 4 in lieu of the 5, and therefore you get the equivalent of a diminished triad. It's kind of a cool sound, right? Going back and forth from F major to F diminished. But anyway, let's see what these sound like over the context of the chords of the minor 2, 5, 1. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a B diminished on this one. I'm going to do a D diminished on this one. You find that like the top 3 notes, the top three notes happen to make a D diminished triad. So D diminished over E, it's an E7 flat 9. And then when I go to this A minor 6, I'm going to play an F sharp diminished arpeggio, which happens to make these notes. So it's the root, the 6, and the minor 3rd. So it emphasizes this really sassy note, right? So here it is. So I'll play it slow. And then D diminished. And then F sharp diminished. So I'm picking the root position of B diminished, the second inversion of D diminished, and then the first inversion of F sharp diminished. So here we go. Let's see. 1, 2, 1, 2, ready, go. You can mess with the time too. What do you think? You like it? You can try the other inversions too. So instead of starting with the root position for B, start with the first inversion for B diminished. And then you can go to this root position D diminished. And then I'm going to go to the second inversion F sharp diminished. So you're going to finish on that real sassy note, the 6th. Let's see how that sounds. Okay. And then finally, the next inversion. So we've got B diminished. I'm going to start with the second inversion. And then I'll go to the first inversion of D diminished. And then I'll go up to the root position F sharp diminished. Now, this one probably sounds okay in the upper register. If I do it down here, it might take over the sound, like this F sharp being below the root. I mean, it might sound cool, but let's try it up here. Yeah, okay, so that's one cool use of diminished triads. Here's another cool use of diminished triads. So it's got a lot of the tension in a tonality. So it works over dominant chords. And let me show you this this little chart here. Let me do this. So what's interesting about the usefulness of diminished triads is they work over lots of different types of dominant, but you have to find out where it fits in these different dominant sounds, right? So a couple of different ways you can do that. So if we go for like just a regular garden variety B flat dominant 7, if we assume it's mixed Lydian, then you can just think, okay, mixed Lydian's the 5, 6, 7. The 7 is on D, so you can play D diminished. So you can do a modal approach to find where the diminished works. The other approach is you find out where it is in the voicing. Like if you play B flat 7, just this regular good old, those top 3 notes happen to make a D diminished triad. So it's D diminished with a B in the bass. Now, I always thought the full dominant 7 arpeggio sounds like a bit hokey, a bit country, It's not a bad sound. It's just not appropriate for everything. It just sounds. It's not as cool as some of the other 7th chord arpeggios anyway. I don't even have that in my muscle memory because I don't really like the way it sounds all that much. You know? Sorry. So, anyway, if I just play regular, just D diminished triad, so it's basically the same thing, skipping the root. I think it sounds cooler. So, if I put this in a looper here, I'll put the B flat 7 chord. So if I play D diminished, I don't know, I think it just sounds a little more interesting than so yeah, it's plain old D diminished over a B flat 7. It sounds cool. Now let's look at another type of dominant. So on the left column, you see that like I've got various flavors of dominant, which is like kind of scary. You know, when you see B flat 7 in a chart, you're like, well, how do I know which one to do? Well, it takes experience to know the context, but it's really all about context. So if you just want plain, you know, Mixolydian's fine. Like altered sounds really good going to minor. It also sounds good going to major. It's like, you know, imagine this one. That's B flat altered going to E flat major. I'll call that the Luck Be a Lady cadence. Now you might have something else to associate it with. B flat Lydian dominant, usually like it either goes down a half step or it goes up a whole step. This is associated with non-functional dominance. You may have heard that vamp like in a Jobim tune. So if you do something like, if you want to emphasize the Lydian dominant sound, you can do the modal approach here. So Lydian dominant happens to be the 4th mode. So B flat Lydian dominant is the 4th mode of F melodic minor. And in melodic minor, there's diminished triad on the 6 and the 7. So according to B flat, it happens to be on the 3rd and the sharp 4. It's like algebra, you know, like. So if I want to make the Lydian dominant sound, here, I'll just play. I'm going to play D diminished and E diminished. So you can like find like these little pockets of like kind of chord shapes you can grab. Yeah, we're mostly talking about the arpeggios on their own. All right, so now what about these blues possibilities? I found that grabbing these diminished triads like are super easy to make sound like blues. And different ones will give the blues flavor a different context. But if say you're doing B flat 7 as the home bass, each one of these sounds really cool as tension. So there's one that exists on the 1, on the minor third, on the sharp 4, or flat 5, and the 6. All the other ones happen to hit a note that is not particularly bluesy by nature, being the flat 2, the sharp 5, and the major 7. And the way I came up with that, it seems arbitrary, I guess, but if you combine the minor blues scale and the major blues scale, you get a 9-note scale called the hybrid blues scale, and it's missing those notes. It's missing the flat 2, the sharp 5, and the major 7. So anyway, here's what the B flat diminished sounds like over B flat 7. You can resolve it to B flat. So I'm going from a B flat diminished triad to resolving it to something major in I guess you probably hear like some Scott Henderson in that. Like I feel like Scott Henderson tries to find blues vocabulary in lots of places. I love Scott Henderson's playing. What else we have? We have D flat diminished. So you're going to hit the minor third, the flat 5, and the 6, which is going to be an interesting sound. So D flat diminished sounds like this. Let me try that again. D flat. I need to come up with a cool lick, you know. Sorry. No. What am I doing? D flat diminished. D flat. D flat diminished. Going to D diminished. That would be cool. Let me try that. So those exist. Here, check it out. So you've got a D flat diminished and a D diminished. The D diminished is going to be like normal sounding dominant chord. No. Yeah. Having a looper pedal is fun, right? You can just try all these different things. All right, so you can play around with those different dominant sounds. I think it's kind of fun. I've written an etude here over like a 12-bar blues form, if you'd like to hear that. So let me see if I can put those chords in a looper here. Oh, before I do that, look at that. So extra cool stuff. So the first inversion of that diminished, it sounds like a Dorian. So if you want to go for a Dorian sound, you can immediately go, you know. So if you think of that as its own root position instead of the first inversion of something else, it's got a root, a minor third, and a sixth. That's why it worked over this chord before, you know, that kind of minor 6 in the 2-5-1 example. And then the second inversion, if you want to associate that with something on its own root, and it's a really neat Lydian sound. So we got 1, we've got a sharp 4, and a 6. Okay. Fun stuff. Modal nerdity. All right. So this is the blues. Let me see if I can put all those changes in a looper. So I'm just pretty much doing like a standard jazz blues with maybe an altered at the end just for spice, 1, 2, 3, go. And then 4 to 1. And then when I did the sharp 4 diminished to the 1 over 5 to 6, and then I'll do a 2 5 1, and then 1 6 2 1 6, and then I did it altered. Okay, so here's the. Let me see if I can get this right. You'll probably see an edit right here because I probably can't do it the first time. 2 1 2 ready go. Have some fun with the rhythm, you don't have to like stick with just pure eighth notes like I didn't, Try to incorporate those, those shapes so you can use them freely. Did I do G diminished? Is that really G diminished? Let me try that again. Something like that. Yeah, diminished triads, I think, are sorely neglected. So if you'd like to get the book, it's available for pre-order. I'll put a link in the description. Creative Guitar Fundamentals. This is the table of contents. Okay, bye. Thanks for listening. Go practice. Practice your diminished triads.